This is important stuff
for you to know.
Welcome to the show. This is Tony.
And this is Javier.
This is the show where we talk about what we believe may be important stuff.
But in the end, it's for you to decide.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Javier, today I'd like to talk about this hot topic. Guns in America. The laws on guns, gun registration, and the implications of the Second Amendment. This is a topic that many people have been involved with and are talking about. I don't know if there's a solution, but I think it's important, and it's something that maybe we can shed some light on, bring a little perspective to. What are your thoughts that come to mind?
Now, is it important because of what happened in Oklahoma a couple of days ago? Is it important for the country going forward? Is it important because it's a constitutional issue? Is it important because it's a reflection of the American society? Why do you think it's important? I think I know how I feel.
Okay, good question. Let me answer. Let me address that first. Yes, it's important. And I think it's very important because there are many segments of our population and people involved in this conversation about guns and the gun debate and regulation and the Second Amendment to the Constitution. So there are many perspectives and solutions, possibilities put forward. Something needs to be addressed, if for nothing else, to resolve and arrive at some commonality. So, yes, I believe it is important when it's important to a lot of people.
I have a suggestion, just for the sake of having a good conversation. Why don't we break it in two parts? Okay, one is the social impact, the impact on society of people carrying weapons or carrying guns. That's one. And another one is the legal implication, because you're having one side looking, using the legal arguments, and one side the social impact. It's like having two different conversations. And I believe that if we follow that, we may be able to come to a conclusion on the social impact, on the impact of society, of crime and people carrying guns, and then if there's a way to handle this based on the law, on the Constitution.
Aha. Well, you talk about the law. Let's address that one first. Let's start
Either
there.
One, yes.
Every state in the United States has a law that addresses gun ownership. Some are very strict. Some are not so strict. I think there is something behind the law. If we look at incidents that have occurred just in the last 12 months in the United States, or let's take it out 24 months, there have been many. There are underlying sources where people were identified that had problems, mental problems, social problems, and were allowed to move forward and get their hands on guns. I think this has to be addressed along with the law, because we're missing people along the way. They're in the system. They're identified. They're not being picked up and followed.
Okay, two things that you have mentioned that I think we have to address. Number one, is it a federal law or is it a state law? The Constitution of the U.S., the Second Amendment, mentions, I don't know if I'm quoting it right, but it says that the federal government, has the right to modify aspects of the Second Amendment. I believe that that's one of them. Now you're saying that the states also have their own. Who has the final saying in gun control laws? Is it the federal government or is it the state governments? Here's where I'm confused, because if we go back into history, the idea of including in the Bill of Rights in 1791 the Second Amendment was to maintain armed militia. Because remember, this was only 15 years after the War of Independence, and they were afraid that the new nation, the citizens of the new nation, could be under attack by a foreign nation, which actually took place in 1812.
Yes, well, you're absolutely correct.
So
it also says in there that because of that, and you're quoting it correctly, that a militia to protect the state gives the people the right to bear arms. So it is for establishment and creation of a militia, but it extends to the people the right to bear arms. At what point do you stop that right?
My point is, and here we get into constitutional law, is it because they say now that is to protect
property,
defend your property, okay,
and your person, yes.
Right. Well, that is the argument that is being used today. Now, where in the Bill of Rights does it say that? It only talks about the militia. It doesn't say anything about you defending your property. This is my question, and of course, it's a legal question. It's a constitutional issue. But I have this doubt every time that I hear the people who are basing their arguments on gun control or no gun control on the right to bear arms to defend your property. And my question is, and if we go back and read the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, it doesn't say that. So somewhere between then, 1791, and today, there is an interpretation or an extension saying it's not only for armed militia, it's also to defend your property. Now, where did that happen? Who made that interpretation? Maybe in the Supreme Court at one point in time.
I think it is an interpretation because the Second Amendment specifically does extend beyond militia the right of people to bear arms. That statement gives an individual the right to bear arms against their person, threats to their person, or their property. Now, granted, that second part, person or property, might be an interpretation, but I think it's a logical interpretation. But taking this into consideration, what should be the law in a state? They're not all the same, they're all different. What should be the law? What's a reasonable law? What would you suggest?
Well, one of the arguments used against gun control is that, let's say I'm in my house and somebody wants to break into my house. I should have the right to defend myself, to have a gun so that I can defend myself, my property, and my family, or my family, myself, and my property.
Okay, that is the Second Amendment.
Okay, no, that is the interpretation today of the Second Amendment. That is what the people are saying now, that I have the right to defend my property, let's say my house, if somebody tries to break in. Now, what one of the arguments that is being used, especially against assault rifles, is that do you need to have an AK-47? And by the way, I'm not taking a position because I still have doubts on moral issues and constitutional issues of what is the right way. But I'm just presenting a scenario for us to carry out the conversation.
Yes.
A young guy wants to break into my house. Is it okay for me to have an assault rifle to defend my house against this guy? Is it, a hand grenade, a
tank?
A tank?
Yes.
Okay.
So
where do we draw the line?
Good point. Where do we draw the line? I don't know. But I know there are a lot of people that are collectors. And does a collector have the right to collect an AK-47 and own it? Under the law, yes. Right now.
Well, if you somehow take away the part that that fires the shot, maybe yes. I mean, I want to look at it, or you mean I have a right to fire it, to take the firing range and use it as a collector? Well, again, that's another debate. Is it the pleasure of somebody prevailing over the interests of the whole population? I don't know. Again, here we get into my individual rights.
Yes.
Versus the collective rights. And I know, talk about collective rights, it's another issue which I don't want to get into. But my point, and this is why I brought this example, is the following. if there were no guns, let's say and we have to talk about the reaction in Australia against the U.S.
Yes, let's talk. Let's stay on the
No,
law
but
here.
no, because
we'll talk about the social
it has something to do with it.
Yes.
Okay, if you have a country where there is no gun allowed in the hands of people, okay, you have Australia, you have England, or Great Britain, and somebody's going to break into my house with a knife. Now, can I defend myself without having a gun against my knife? What are my chances of protecting my property if the guy tries to break in with a baseball bat or with a knife versus if a guy comes in with a gun?
I would venture to say in both those examples you gave in England and Australia, even though there are very strict laws for no guns, that criminal breaking into your home has a gun.
Well, I don't know. Okay.
I would venture to say they probably do.
Well, maybe they have such harsh penalties that these people, I don't know if they have life in prison and so on. But the point is this, that we talked about the legal aspects, the constitutional aspects, and now we're talking about moral, ethical, and practical aspects. Should people have an AK? I would love to have one. I like guns. I've competed in practical shooting for many years. I don't own guns anymore, but I would like to fire an AK-47. Now, should I be allowed to have that in my house, or could they be kept at a range? And I'm just making it up now.
Yes.
That could be a solution. I have like a locker. I have it in my range, or I rent them and I fire them and I leave them there, and they're under the protection of the army or the police or whatever. I still have the pleasure of using it.
Yes,
but I don't have it in my house. Maybe I'm allowed to have a pistol or a revolver. That's okay, maybe. To some people, not even that. Now, another point that we have to mention that you addressed at the beginning is how many people are actually killed by a gun in the U.S. per year that have acquired that gun legally. Okay, that are under the
a registered gun owner.
A registered gun owner versus a guy who stole it or bought it on the black market.
Yes.
I don't know. Probably
very small percentage.
Very small percentage of people who killed or who used the gun are registered owners. Those who killed somebody or attacked somebody with a gun obtained them illegally.
Yes.
So it is not the solution, I think, is or the onus of the problem is not on the regulators.
Okay.
Okay, because they have the people who have registered that they buy a gun and they give the names and they give, I don't know how they do it.
They follow the law.
They follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is on the police, on how you police the people who acquire them illegally.
Yes. Wow. There's a big gap here, and that's a good point that you make. Most states have the registration of weapons with a background check. It varies, but on the internet, you can order a weapon. At gun shows in many cities across the country, you can walk in and purchase weapons.
Without registration?
Without going through the official state registration. This is a huge debate. It's a big debate and a large gap in the system.
Can I sell you a gun? If
Yes.
they say I own a gun.
Yes.
And I tell you, Tony, I have a beautiful Colt Commander 45.
Yes.
I'll sell it to you.
Yes.
I can do it?
You are under no legal obligation to follow through and see if I have taken that weapon and registered it.
But if I have it registered, I assume that I have to say I sold it.
Yes.
To Mr. whoever.
Yes.
I have to, okay.
Yes. And
so they can trace that gun. If somebody uses it, they can they look at that I was the original owner. They would come to me and I would say, well, as I told you that I sold it to Mr.
Yes.
Okay. If he didn't register, that's his problem,
sure.
not mine.
What if you gave it to your own son or your daughter as a gift? I guess the one thing I take issue with here, you made a statement, and this is common with many people in this discussion. Whether you follow strict gun laws or no guns at all, Are we allowed to? You asked me the question, am I allowed to? It's that statement that I take issue with in this debate. Who is allowing what? Again, it's Big Brother allowing, as a born citizen of the United States under the Constitution that I was born under, I have the right under the law to own a gun. Now, who will allow it? If a conglomerate of the people in a majority decide to change the law, then we as a people, you, me, all our neighbors, have changed it and then allowed. But an authority to allow it, I take deference to.
Tony, please. We live here under the government allowing us to do things on a daily basis. For example, do you drive a car?
Yes.
Do you have a driver's license?
Yes.
Why do you have a driver's license? If you were born in the United States and you have a right to move around.
It's not in the Constitution.
No.
It's a state law.
It is not. I'm not talking about Constitution.
But
it's a philosophical argument that you're presenting now.
Okay.
I was born in the U.S. and I have a right
under the Constitution
to have a gun.
Yeah.
Well, under the Constitution, you have a right to move.
Yes. But it's a state law to make.
It doesn't say you have to walk from here to California. I can walk throughout any state.
Yes.
Okay. I can go from here to Seattle.
Right.
I can walk. I can fly. I can take the train. I can drive myself. I can go on a motorcycle.
Freedom of movement
for all of them.
Yes.
For all of them. I don't know. Maybe not walking, but maybe even walking. But for all of them, there's a government agency or office that is allowing me to do that.
It's not. See, that's where I take deference. It's not that agency that is allowing that. It's we, the people,
but
in a majority.
That's what I'm going to. You say because I was born. Well, actually, you were born in the U.S., but at the moment at the point where you are alive,
yes,
immediately you are immersed, or you form part of a society.
Uh-huh.
And society, for you to belong to the society, you have to abide by certain rules and regulations and laws.
Chosen by
the people.
Majority.
Right,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, but you cannot say, I was born in the U.S. and I can do anything I want.
No. I'm not saying that. No,
but
I'm talking about the law. Is that how you took it?
That's the way that I took it. Yes,
yes. Okay, that's not what that wasn't my intention. I'm saying allowed to gives me the impression that there is a central authority that is telling me what I am permitted and not permitted to do, where it actually is a law of the people.
That central authority is telling you what you can do because they act representing the people, because they are the people who elected the government. They may be elected or appointed. Doesn't matter. The government whom you elected through the election process, electoral process, and through the whole process, is the one who is abiding by the Constitution, abiding by the law and regulations that the people, through their representatives in Congress, have decided. Yeah. Okay. So in the end, you're always subject to some form of regulation.
So someone has to enforce the
Somebody
regulation.
has to enforce.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I would accept that distinction. I would accept that. Why don't we take a break here and let's pause for a brief commercial, and we will come back and pick up the social implications, because there have been a lot of issues going on, and there are many, many suggestions that people have because of the social implications. We'll pick that up on the other side. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Javier, at the beginning you talked about two different segments of this gun discussion, gun debate, and the Constitution. Talked about the law, which we covered in the first segment here. Now I'd like to pick up the social implications of it, because this really gets to the heart of a debate. Many people have many different suggestions and solutions. Why? Why are there so many different points of input into this debate?
Well, number one, I think that it's a societal issue. I mean, it's not just the death of this person, this young Australian in Oklahoma.
Yes. Sad.
Doesn't impact only his family, which is very sad, and of course himself.
Yes,
I mean, you have to look at the individual, the family, the friends, and society. For example, the reaction from Australia is to question all Americans, the American society, because they have guns. Now, because of an incident that took place in one city or in one town that involved, let's say, 4 people, the 3 teenagers and this young baseball player from Australia. Now, is that a reflection of all society in the U.S.? If you look at the media in the last 2 days, they're talking about everybody.
Well, what a lot of people forget is we're 320 million people, or roughly 310, 320. So when the media highlights an incident, they make it seem like it's happening to 200 million people.
Well, that's my point.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not saying that what happens to one person is not relevant. That it's only relevant when it happens to everybody. All I'm saying is that we have to look at from different perspectives, because you have an impact, obviously, on the victim and like I said, and on the family. Maybe it is not the case now, but probably that was the person who brought the money to the family. He was the breadwinner for a family. Okay, and this person is shot. Yeah. Now, let's say, which is not the case, I think, that the parents are sick and he's the only one who's able to work and he gets shot. What happens to that family? So you have an impact in the family besides the mental or the emotional impact of having their son killed.
Yes. Now,
you also have an impact on the community, because now you have families of the victim, not in this case, but you normally have families of the victims and the families of the assailants who normally live in the same community. So now you have a very difficult situation in the community. You have a family who are the relatives of the criminals.
Yes.
And then you have families who are related to the victim. And I think there's so much tension being developed, and here we have to get into an issue that is, I know it's going to be very difficult, and I hope I'm not misinterpreted. Now, it happens in a community, okay? And if we look at the statistics, we may see that it happens mostly in low-income areas.
That's a fact.
Okay? Yeah, but I just want to make sure that I'm not misinterpreted. It happens most of the time. I'm not saying always, because we have seen horrible crimes committed by people.
Yeah.
Okay, from a higher echelon. Okay, I don't know, in terms of money.
Yes.
I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking only in terms of money, where they live in they have better schooling, they have better housing, they come from more stable families and so on. Okay, that happens. Now, is the issue really the guns?
Good point.
Or is the issue the upbringing, the morals that are communicated by the family and by the community to that or those individuals?
Okay, let me address 2 points that you brought up. 1, this is very important. Is the issue the guns, or is the issue the community, the family structure? I think that side, the family structure, the community, is huge. That's huge. In the schools, in the community, broken families, a lack of supervision, a lack of authority figures, a lack of direction, a lack of guidance that comes on. This has a tremendous societal effect on these young kids. An idle mind is a devil's workshop, is the old adage. But Then again, on the other hand, to use the example that you had talked about, the young man from Australia, tragic situation. Their reaction, I understand their perspective. They have taken a position of no guns, 0 guns. So they are judging the incidents in the United States based on a perspective of 0 guns. I understand that. Is that the answer? Do we just say no guns anymore? Who makes that decision?
Well, normally when you make an opinion, you're basing it from your own perspective and from your own cultural values, and they have cultural values that may be different from the U.S. For them, having a gun, it's almost like a criminal act.
Yes.
And the fact that you have a gun means that you're violent and you may use it against other human beings. So they don't carry guns. They don't see a person carrying guns, but I don't know if they hunt. They probably go hunting. I don't know.
Probably.
Okay, I don't know that much about Australia. But the issue is that you see it from your own cultural perspective. Everybody who's making an opinion now, here in the U.S., has base it on their own culture.
Yes.
Some people come from cultures, like you said, the broken families. They may have. I'm not generalizing, but they may have different values.
Yeah.
They may have different concepts of what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is false, what is criminal.
The value of life.
Value of life. I mean, for these young kids, life seems to have no value.
Yes.
Okay, they see killing somebody as a form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, for some of the kids, a PlayStation is a form, or playing football.
Yes.
Or going to the movies. Now, here we have an issue of what youngsters do during their free time when they are not at school to entertain themselves.
Yes.
So I think guns is like you walk into your house and you find your spouse in a sofa with another man, and your decision is to throw the sofa out the window. Yeah, I mean, is the gun really the problem? Is the gun or the guns that were used to shoot this young man in Oklahoma? Is it really the culprit? Is that the issue, or the person who fired the gun?
That's the social impact of this, because there are so many different perspectives. You brought up a good point, the cultural influence here, because it is different and it brings in so many different points. I'm not sure how to solve this. I'm not sure how it's solved, but it has to be a combination of the law, and it has to be a combination of societal restraint in some way, because both are we the people. And
I think it starts from let's say from the base. I mean, the people, and we have to come to some sort of an agreement. And it's a good point. I mean, it's a good summit to say it's legal aspects, it's social aspects, it's economic aspects, it's political aspects. It's a little bit of everything, and you have to have a certain perspective of all of them, so that you can come to your own individual conclusion of what should be the way to solve this problem.
Yes,
I think it's very complicated.
Yes,
so many issues that have to be addressed.
Yes. There is a solution here, but it has to be. Maybe that's why the debate is good. Maybe it's great. Maybe bring in so many different perspectives, but eventually we have to come to some measure of a compromise or solution. No guns, allow guns, register guns, change the amendment, Second Amendment interpretation, whatever it might be.
How many? I would love to find out these statistics. How many people during the year in the U.S. actually use a gun to prevent a breaking into their property?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if that exists.
Maybe, probably exists. Maybe police records. Maybe less than you can imagine.
Yeah.
So somebody breaking into your house is not a huge problem.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Good point.
Okay. So I think we have covered a lot.
Yes.
And obviously. It's a very complex issue
and a spirited discussion on it.
Yes, and we certainly don't have a conclusion, or we don't have a recommendation. I think we have to look into this. But what have we learned, Tony?
Wow, good question. What have we learned today? You know what I've learned? I'm going to keep it simple. I have learned that because this is such a complicated issue, that many, many different perspectives exist. There's no simple solution. Change the law, no guns, strict guns. There's no simple solution. There has to be a compromise. That's what I've learned. Many, many people involved. How about you? What have you learned today?
Well, about the same, but I would go for a little bit farther, and I would say that what I have learned is that before I take a stance on this issue, I have to find out more about the stakes, what is going on. I don't want to have the media, the pundits, the government telling me what has to be done. I want to know. I want to have an answer, and that answer is the one that I would present to my representatives, that I would voice if I have to, and if I have the opportunity, my opinion on the issue. I don't want to have anybody making that choice for me.
Great
because
point.
It's very serious.
Great point. I think that's an excellent perspective that you brought up. I agree with that we do need more information. So let's wrap it up here. We'll be back with our final segment on headlines in the news. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everybody. Javier, I want to pick up on something we've done in the past in other segments. We've talked about warning labels on products and signs around the country. Here today, I want to talk about headlines that are in the news that we pick up and report it. I think proofreading might be a lost art in that business. But this could be important stuff.
Or is it?
Well, let's decide. Let's talk about a few of these.
I have another one here. May I have one for you now?
Sure,
okay,
go.
Because this one says that police begin campaign to run down jaywalkers.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe this is a population reduction. We have budgets that are blasting out everywhere in a lot of cities, going bankrupt.
A tough sheriff, maybe?
Yes, tough sheriff in town. So maybe this is a campaign, a way to reduce the population so that they can reduce the obligation and liabilities of the city. So they're just going to run down jaywalkers.
Eliminate them.
Just eliminate them.
Physically.
Yeah, physically. I would think it sounds like a political stand that somebody has taken pretty strong. Just eliminate the population.
You think he could be reelected after people find out what he's doing?
Well, some of these politicians are reelected after doing some pretty serious things. So I would watch out if the police are targeting jaywalkers. So if you're going to cross the street, stay in the walkway. Don't cross at your own liberty.
Now, could there be another interpretation of the headline that they're going to act strongly against jaywalkers or severe or?
Okay, so you want to be logical about this, right?
No,
I kind of like my idea to reduce population, but okay, logically, they probably have many people crossing the street.
I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the sheriff.
Okay.
Poor guy,
Yeah, so they probably have a lot of people crossing the street illegally, and they're going to
eliminate them, not eliminate them. Yeah, crack down. Maybe that's the word. Yes, not run down. Okay. Now I have this is another one, maybe dramatic or sad, but this is what it says: man struck by lightning faces battery charge.
Wow, that's important.
It is.
Once you're struck by lightning, you carry this level of electrical shock within your body. You cannot simply walk around in public with this level of electricity in your body. You have to register yourself. Yes. People can be killed from touching you. That's an open electrical shock. So he faces a battery charge for not registering his electrical
level. Dangerous. Walking.
Very dangerous.
Let's say in South Beach you get hit by a lightning, and you're overcharged.
Yeah.
And you walk around touching people, and you
can't do that.
So he would be. You can't do that.
No, he's like a weapon.
Okay, so what happens if he touches somebody and somebody gets hurt? Would he be taken to court?
I think so.
Or let's say he attacks a few people. What would happen to him? Why would he be taken to court? Under which What's the argument?
He is charged
Legally?
with failure to register yourself as an active battery in public. So you carry an electrical shock at a level that you register as a battery. He could go around starting cars.
So
he failed to register. This is serious.
He should be wearing like a sweatshirt that says AC, DC, or whatever.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's alternate current or
I
don't know which one, or direct current. But so the guy is charged. Is that what you think it says?
I think that's what it's saying. This is important.
Now, I'm just thinking. Okay, what if it say this happened in South Beach? There was a sign that says, beware electrical storms. And you hear a siren, woo, 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 meaning you have to leave the beach because we have an electrical storm. Okay, so this guy stayed in the beach and he got struck by lightning. So now the city is going to charge him for battery, like he was violating a rule, or somebody else got hurt with his family with him or something. Could that be what they're trying to say? Is that they're going to charge him for battery, whatever. What's the exact legal interpretation of battery in the court?
That's assault. That's like assault. Yeah, aggressive assault.
So it continues along your logic. That
I think it makes sense. If he's struck by lightning, he's carrying around electrical charge, and he is.
Yeah, but what if he's a victim? I mean, if we continue analyzing this episode, let's say that the guy is charged with electricity after the lightning, and he touches some people. People realize that the guy is charged, and they come in. People whose smartphones are running out of battery, and they go up to him. Everybody goes up to him and puts the cable somewhere inside the guy to charge the phone. Now they could be accused of battery, couldn't they?
Well, I would.
He would be like a walking power source for everybody in the beach.
Yeah, that's more public support, though. That's more public support. If people have their smartphones running out of power and this guy can help them, then he's really supporting. He's providing a public service.
Okay, so he should not be.
But if he's going around with this tremendous charge and he is touching people and shocking them, he needs to register himself as a battery. I think this one is the winner of the day. Okay, the winner of the day. But it makes sense. Here's the headline. Typhoon rips through cemetery. Hundreds dead.
This guy's, again, I think it's his family, the experts.
Yes.
And the other guys who have made, like the guy with the temperature. I mean, these are very brilliant minds.
Yes.
I mean, they realized, that after the typhoon went past the cemetery, that there were hundreds of people dead.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe...
Aren't there observations somewhat obvious, though? A cemetery? Is it possible that there were many dead already before the typhoon?
Well, that's one option.
So they observed, wow, there are hundreds.
Yeah, but, okay, that's one. I think that this one merits to have a smaller print explanation. Okay, let's say it happens in, I believe in Philippines, there's a lot of Catholics, Christians. Okay, and they celebrate, the Day of the Dead, which I think is sometime
like Halloween, end of October, exactly. Somewhere around.
Okay, and it's a tradition that in that day you go to the cemetery to visit your relatives who have passed away.
Okay,
so maybe the typhoon hit the cemetery the day of the death, where there were a lot of people at the cemetery visiting their dead relatives, and they just got killed. So that could be another interpretation. Now, if you add those dead, who got the people who were visiting for the day at the cemetery, plus the people who were already dead.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
Wow.
So that's why maybe you have hundreds,
There was a cemetery when I was a young boy, just down the block from my home. And It was an old cemetery, and in the evening, in the summertime, many nights I would have to walk past this cemetery back to my house from my friend's house. And my friend asked me, why are you always so afraid to walk past the cemetery at night when you're on your way home? And I said, well, how many dead people do you think are in that cemetery? And he said to me, I always remember this, I hope all of them.
Yeah, we do hope.
Well, Javier, we've come to the end of the show.
We certainly had a good time, and we hope our listeners did too.
Maybe along the way, someone even learned something.
And remember, if you think something is
important stuff,
let us know and we will talk about it.
So, until next time, hasta la vista.